Good evening, everybody. It's the Cryptid Huntress. I'm Jessica Jones. Thank you guys so much for being here tonight. Man, we got a good crowd already. And you know what? We have a wonderful, wonderful guest tonight. I got a brand new guest, someone who's brand new to the channel tonight. And I had the pleasure of meeting Mr. Jerry Millwood Jr. at the Georgia Bigfoot Conference this year. And we really hit it off. He's got a wonderful YouTube channel, y'all, and a TikTok too. Y'all gotta check out his TikTok. Do yourselves a favor and check out his TikTok, y'all. Okay. But Jerry is with North Carolina Investigates. And those are some wonderful dudes from up in North Carolina. And of course, Harley Owens, who was here in the studio with us last week. He's part of that team as well. And Jerry is a lifelong resident of North Carolina. It goes way deep. He's got deep roots up in the Appalachians. So tonight we will be talking about feral people and the giants and all the cryptids up in the Appalachians. And we may be getting some advice from Jerry as well as to how to handle the Appalachians if we go up there. That's my stomping ground, y'all. And that's where I do a lot of my Bigfooting. I actually was Bigfooting just for a little bit today. I went hiking and I came home covered in mud and ticks. Okay, so I probably will, if I have a tick crawling down my face during the show, just ignore it. Okay. Just ignore it. There's no telling what's in my hair right now. I didn't take a shower after I got back. Sorry, y'all. TMI, I know, but that's the life of a Bigfooter, y'all. It is what it is. Okay. And it was so much fun. And tonight we're going to have so much fun. So go grab the popcorn, y'all, and get ready. Buckle up, buttercups, because we're going down a rabbit hole tonight and we're going to go deep into the Appalachian Mountains and maybe find some feral people tonight. Okay. So if you guys would like to follow along with all of my shows and maybe even check out my social media links and see the archives of the show, go to the cryptidhuntress.com. All of my shows are there, my social media links, the calendar of events. I think the next event that I have is actually the Full Disclosure Now conference down in St. Petersburg, Florida. That's going to be in July. And you can get all your information there. So you guys go check that out there on my website. Also, I do have a Patreon and I have an Etsy shop if you guys want to check out the goods over there. It's a great way to support the channel. And I have a ton of new stuff to put in that shop. I will be doing that tomorrow. Okay, I've got a whole box of new stuff. It's actually vintage, but it's new stuff. Y'all are going to love it. So go check that out as well. All right, y'all. Let's get to it. Let's do it tonight because I can't wait to bring Jerry up, y'all. He's a hoot. Okay, so tonight we are going to be talking about feral people and the giants of the Appalachians, including Bigfoot. Tonight we are talking to Jerry Millwood Jr. He's been interested in Bigfoot and all things paranormal since he was a little boy. He was born and raised in Western North Carolina, and his North Carolinian roots go back to the late 1700s on both sides of his family. He's a lifelong outdoorsman, camper, hiker, and a tracker. He's a veteran of the U.S. Army. Thank you for your service. And is currently writing a book about the strange and unexplained phenomenon in his beloved South Mountains and the surrounding area. You guys, please help me welcome to the show, Mr. Jerry Millwood. Did I say it right?
Said it perfect.
I know it's not Jerry, but that's what my dad calls his friend Jerry. So, and he's super. I know my accent's going to come out tonight hanging out with you.
Good.
I feel it.
Yeah. We're going to bring it in you.
Yes. Yes. A fellow Southerner. I love it. I love it. How have you been, Jerry? Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me. I've been looking forward to this. I've been good. How about you?
I've been excellent. I was telling the audience that I met you at the Georgia Bigfoot conference, and I wanted to give your whole team a shout out for the show today. We've got George Lunsford and Robert, yourself, Tim Deal. I hope Tim's doing okay. I heard he had surgery.
Tim's doing great.
Okay, good. All right. Well, shout out to him, and also to Harley Owens as well. Harley was here last week, and you guys are so much fun to hang out with. And I got to go to the woods with Harley recently and do some Bigfooting. Probably maybe a place you've been to before. Maybe.
Well, I haven't got to go there yet.
Okay.
But it's on the list.
I highly recommend it. If Harley will take you, you should go for sure. Over in Tennessee. Now you're over in Western Tennessee. That's the Smoky Mountains, right?
I'm in the foothills of the Appalachians. It's my mountains is a mountain range called the South Mountains, plural. It's about 100,000 acres. And then to the west of me, just to the west of me, are the Cherry Mountains in Rutherford County, North Carolina. So yes, and we're considered the stair steps to the Smoky Mountains, and it's beautiful here, and it's weird.
It's weird. It's very weird. I just got to give you a shout out about your TikTok page. Man, you got a big following over there, and some great videos. You're very entertaining. Okay, to listen to. So I highly recommend everybody go follow. Give him a follow on his TikTok. Now, your TikTok handle is it Rebel Casa?
It's J.R. Millwood.
Okay.
At Kaiser Rebel, Casar. That's the name of my town. It's a long story.
Okay.
Kaiser. It was supposed to be Kaiser, and the Postal Service misspelled it back in the late 1800s, so it became Kaiser. And that word means nothing except for a misspelling of the word Kaiser.
Oh my God! I love stories like that. That is so funny. I thought it was Casa. I didn't know.
Well, that's as good a pronunciation of it as any of the rest that we hear, because nobody gets it right the first time.
I love it, man. Every town, I promise you, every town that I've ever been to in the Appalachians has some character to it. Okay, just about every town, a lot of character, a lot of legends, a lot of local legends, a lot of stories of monsters, or even Cherokee legends and things like that. I've spent some time up in Judaculla, like Cashers area, and spent some time up there. I wanted to take note tonight, y'all. My good friend Chief David Webb passed away, and I just found out this past weekend. I didn't know. I think he passed away about a year ago, from what I was told, and I didn't know that. And so I just found out. But shout out to him. I got the whole tour of the Cherokee reservation out there, and they showed me where all the Bigfoot sightings have been and stuff. And man, I got a good dose of a lot of different live and direct Cherokee legends while I was there, including skinwalkers while I was up there. So I can't even imagine the stories you got going back. Your family goes back to the 1700s.
Yeah, on both sides. Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. Did you grow up hearing stories about any kind of strange happenings in the Appalachians?
Oh yeah. Through the turn of events in my childhood years, my brother and I were raised mostly by my great grandparents. Now they were from the hills, and they were born in 1905. Think about that for a minute. The people that raised me and my brother during our formative years were born in 1905, and so we heard all of the stories, everything from Spearfinger to the Cherokee Devil, Sulkaloo, the hairy man of the woods, and the little people. And my great grandfather was Cherokee. He was actually adopted, and the family that raised him ensured that it was a white family, the Hendersons in Rutherford County, North Carolina, and they ensured that he passed that he knew things about the culture, and he shared that stuff with us.
Really?
Yeah.
Really? Well, you did mention one of my favorite legends, and that is Spearfinger. And I do believe that my team actually, I feel like we may have had an encounter with her. And I know it's hard to wrap your head around sometimes, like for a normal person, but the legends are real out there. And even if it's not in like a 3D level, there's her spirits out there.
Right.
There's something to it, right? Do I sound crazy to you, or do you understand where I'm coming from?
I understand where you're coming from.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's a little scary knowing that she goes around taking her spear finger and taking the livers out of children and eating them, things like that. I had a story of Mad Maud when I was a kid. My grandparents used to tell me about Mad Maud that lived in their woods. And that scared the bejesus out of me. I wouldn't go out in the woods at night because of that. Do you think that that's like, it's more than a cautionary tale when we hear stories like this?
I think so, because, well, I'm going to share with you something that a mentor of mine shared with me about 20 years ago. His name was Richard Eagle. And Richard was part Cherokee, part Shawnee. And he took me under his wing. And one day he held up a piece of paper like this. And he said, Silverhawk, that's what he called me. He said, this is the spiritual realm. And he took a ballpoint pen and he made a tiny little dot on it. And he said, that dot represents what we understand. And he said, always pay attention to every legend, every so-called myth, because there are kernels of truth in them, kernels of spiritual truth. And so I'm with you.
Yeah, that's good advice. I mean, when I was a kid, I don't know, you and I are probably about the same age, I would assume. You might be like a couple years older than me, maybe. Okay. And I when I was growing up, I never in a million years, first of all, I never thought I'd be chasing Bigfoot as an adult, okay, through the woods. But here I am. Okay. But all these stories, we were told these things were just fairy tales. These things weren't real. Ghosts and aliens and the Loch Ness monster and dragons. And I mean, my gosh, I've come across just about every one of those things since I've been an adult or even a kid in real life. And so it's really odd being an adult now, seeing that those aren't just fairy tales, not at all. Not at all. Yeah.
And you and I have got to see things that have helped us learn more and more and more and more the older we get, that there's so much yet out there that we don't know about.
Exactly. Well, things are covered up. Okay. First of all, and people, okay. One of my favorite interviews about Bigfoot out of North Carolina was it Tim Peeler? Was that his name?
Tim Peeler. That's here in Kaiser.
Is it near you? No way.
He's
so
10
you
minutes.
Know Tim?
I do.
I love that. That's one of my favorite interviews about him. And my friend Don Tart is a friend of his as well. And I spent a lot of time out in the woods with Don for years. Okay. And they interviewed Tim, and there are people out there that would just kind of like make fun of it and stuff. Cause he's got the country accent just like we have. Okay. And he talks about Bigfoot's being on his property, and he's like, get out of here, And but that's kind of how like the news and the general public will go, and like they make fun of people like us, and they really kind of target people that have like thick accents and I'm just saying kind of like us. I know that my accent's not as bad usually. Okay. And I say bad, I mean good. By bad, I mean good. Okay. But yeah, that's kind of the way that we're all portrayed though, right? Is like, typical like backwoods country living folks, but we're the ones that are seeing the Bigfoots, right? Because we're living in the woods. We are backwoods.
Yes. And I have found that over the years, especially when I went away and went to the Army, and then later I came out and went to college, people automatically deduct 30 points off of our IQ, but that's to our advantage.
Because of the accent.
Because of the accent. And I always use that to my advantage and sneak around, come up behind them.
Exactly. I know. Well, listen, I had the accent and I was a girl. Okay. So I had the double whammy. I could trick people. Okay. Got to use that stuff to your advantage, right?
That's right.
Do. I learned that young. I did. But I don't know. I just think that, there's so much going on in that part of North Carolina, obviously. And I was just kind of going through your TikTok one day. I mean, I love first of all, I love your YouTube and all your videos. After I met you, you were like, hey, check out my YouTube channel. And I did. And I was like, oh man, I love this. Cause you got story time, and, you talk about all the things that pertain to things you've experienced even recently. And there's one story in particular, by the way, that I would really love for you to tell the audience tonight.
Okay.
And that's about your dog. Okay, like the story about your dog disappearing, and thank the Lord your dog showed back up. Okay, but I've got dogs. Everybody, just almost everybody in this chat's probably got a dog, and we love our pets. And this would be a great story to kind of start off the night for you to tell the audience.
Okay.
That has potential ties to like Bigfoot or even feral people.
All right. Well, a couple of years ago, my wife got up before I did, and she took she took some of the dogs out. Now, at the time, we had 10 dogs. Well, the smallest one, Scoot, who's named, by the way, after one of my best friends. Actually, he is my best friend. But Scoot must have slipped out the door on my wife, and she didn't realize it. So when I got up later, I started tending the dogs and giving medicine and all of that. And I noticed Scoot was gone. And I looked all over. And I called her. I called Nancy and said, Scoot's not in here. And of course, she didn't realize that he had come out with her. And she said, well, I don't know. So I hit the woods. I stayed in the wood 9 hours that day looking for him. Now, he got lost. This is one of the major parts of the story. He was already elderly. He was already 15 years old. He was blind, completely blind by cataracts. He was mostly deaf and had no teeth. He had just lost the last of his 2 teeth a few weeks prior to this happening.
Bless his heart.
So I didn't find him. And the next day I was back in the woods, and we're surrounded by deep creek bottom on 3 sides. And then once you get past the creek bottom, you go over a ridge, and past that ridge in 3 directions is nothing but wilderness. And I honestly, by the evening of the second day, I gave up on him, because everything in those woods would want to eat Scoot. An 8-pound Yorkshire Terrier, everything from skunks, raccoons, bobcats, panthers, on and on. I didn't give him a chance. And so on the 19th day after he disappeared, my neighbor who liked to take his little off-road buggy, and he took it down along the creek, he spotted Scoot in the creek standing on a sandbar. He hightailed it back up here to the house, and he said, I saw your dog at the creek. Now, Jessica, I thought that he was mistaken. Thought there's no way. It's not possible. And I pulled my boots on and I went down there. And sure enough, there he was. He was standing on the sandbar, completely dry. I kicked those boots off and went down the bank of that creek.
Wow.
And I was one of the happiest days of my life. It didn't sink into later, but he was on that sandbar, and there wasn't any footprints around him.
Whoa.
Not even bone. He was bone dry, but the big part is he stunk so bad. He didn't smell like just a dirty dog. He smelled like the stench that we associate with Bigfoot. And we smell that a lot around here. And you've heard it. You've probably smelled it. That's what the dog smelled like. So we found out that he actually gained a quarter of an ounce while he was gone. And he couldn't eat anything. He couldn't hunt. He was being taken care of by somebody or something.
Wow. Oh my God. I can't, thank you so much for telling the story, because that is just wild. I know, being first of all, I'm a mom with a kid, and I've also got a dog, and I've always had dogs. I've always had cats. I've always had animals. The worst thing is to lose an animal, or to disappear. My German Shepherd ran off one day at the farm and got lost in the hay. Like it had not been cut, and she got so lost. I didn't know if I was ever going to find her ever again out in the pasture. I thought maybe she'd ran off somewhere. I mean, it was like hours and hours before I finally found her. And she made her way to the lake and was panicking, trying to swim and stuff. And it was wild. It was a horrible feeling. I know that feeling, but thank goodness, I found her. But I know you searched with a fine-tooth comb for your baby, and I went to that spot over and over again. This was over 2 weeks later. your dog was just sitting there had not even walked. It was like it was just sitting. It was just standing there
But I
by
theorize.
itself.
I think that he was set there. I
Mm-hmm.
think that whether it was feral people or whether it was Bigfoot, or by the way, around here we call our Bigfoots knobby.
Oh,
They're called knobbies, and I can tell you about that later. But I think that they heard my neighbor coming on his little off-road vehicle, and I think they set him there in a spot that was, I mean, it was, you could see it easily from the trail. I think they set him there, hoping we would see him, and that's what I honestly believe.
Oh my gosh, I think so too. I actually love that. I love it for your dog, and your dog. I'm sure your dog was happy to be back home in his own bed, and to not have sight or to be able to see and not have any teeth and to gain weight. To gain weight. I mean, I don't know. I probably would have been. I know this sounds kind of gross, but I know I talk about poop because we talk about tracking and stuff with Bigfoot research. I would have been watching the poop to see what that dog had eaten. Okay, like where have you been? What have you been eating? Okay, but I'm like Inspector Gadget. Okay,
it was obvious from his poop that he had definitely been eating meat.
Really?
Yes.
Wow.
And a dark side to all of this is that in this area, Tyler just commented and said, unfortunately, it seems most of the pets who go missing are never found, and that's true. Dogs, I had personally found a dog that was horribly attacked, slammed against a tree.
Oh.
A dog just a quarter mile up the road from me was found in the creek with his back broken. It was a 100-pound dog. And we have an issue in this general area of dogs going missing. And,
oh my gosh.
Or never being found at all.
Oh my gosh, Jerry, that's so sad. That's terrible. I mean, we've come across as my team, of course, doing investigations, come across dogs that have been, slammed against trees. It's not very uncommon. That's why I don't take my dog out to like our research weekends when we're going to be doing some when I go deep into the mountains. I don't take my dog. Just because I worry about her. She barks at anything too. So I can't have her out there. But just because it's so dangerous, you go off the Bigfoots don't like the dogs out there barking at them and giving their locations away. That's what I think.
I think you're right. I don't take mine for safety reasons. And also I don't want to diminish my chances of having an experience. Yes,
that's right. Because we're 100% out there to have an experience, right? When you're out there doing the Bigfoot field research. And how do you distinguish? Like, do you live out in the woods, kind of? You're out there in the Appalachians. Do you do like Bigfoot research, kind of? I mean, have you ever had Bigfoots up near your property before where you live, or do you just kind of save that for like when you go out with your buddies out in the woods, Bigfoot?
They come right up to our yard, in our barn. We've had so many incidents over the years since we bought this place. Beating on the side of the house in the night. Vocalization is very common. We've had things in our backyard like lawn furniture and different things, poles for a fence we went out one morning and all of this stuff was just strewn everywhere. Chairs set up on top of the dog kennel, in the tree, my feed barrels in my barn being broken into. Just on and on. We literally live in their backyard and they live in our backyard. Oh
yeah, you live on their territory, I guess, right? Yeah, but they for the most part leave your dogs alone. I mean, other than maybe they took in your dog. This is my theory. Maybe they took in Scoot because they know Scoot. Maybe they know your dog better than one might think.
They may have had compassion on him. They could see that he was helpless and that he posed no threat, and maybe he just strummed the strings of their heart.
Yeah, I bet he strums the strings of everybody's heart that he comes in contact with because he's a cutie.
He does. He is just my little baby.
Oh my gosh. Well, okay. Well, I don't know. I did not realize they're coming up and like slapping your house. So that's up close and personal. Have you guys ever felt threatened by it at your home, like with your wife and your family?
We've been, I mean, we've been in the house at night, and the smell actually came into our house. That was that close. Never felt threatened in that context. Now, there's been some times when I was out late at night. If I go out and do a head count on my livestock and I have one missing, I got to find it. And usually, for whatever reason, especially if they're sick, they will go downhill because they go off by themselves because they're sick. And right next to the wood line, several times down there, and I have felt threatened and just had to get out of there. I did not like the feeling. I got whistled at one time, and it sounded alarm bells in my head. I got yelled at a couple times, as if I felt like they were saying, "Get away from here. We don't want you down here right now." And then I actually picked up a set of red eyes looking back at me out of the woods. And I was freaked out by that very much.
Oh my gosh. Oh my goodness. So, wow. I would be a little weirded out by that too. You know, I've had several people been on the show, like our buddy Flat Rocks. Well, Flat Rock has not been on my show. Okay, let me take that back. I've talked to Flat Rock, and I've had other people on the show who have had Bigfoots that have come up and slapped their house and stuff, and it's been looking in their windows. Flat Rock was telling me, okay, I've been to several events where he's spoken, okay, and he was telling us about how they look in his, I guess they look in his windows and stuff. And I mean, that's one of the worst things for me, I think, because I grew up out on a farm, and my mom and dad had lace curtains. I freaking hated those lace curtains because I knew that whatever was outside was looking in at me. You know, anytime I turned my lights on, I didn't have blinds. You know, I grew up in the 80s, okay, and I don't remember having blinds. I don't know, but of course we lived out so far out in the country that, you know, why do you need blinds? Because nobody's out here. Well, there's other stuff looking in your windows at night. And I think that's what gives me the biggest creep factor, is knowing things are looking in our windows at night.
Yep, and I do. My curtains are closed during the daytime, much less at night.
Oh yeah, that's one of the things about the Appalachians, right? Is always close your curtains, and when you get out of your car at night, you run straight into the house. I mean, there's rules. I've read like a rule book of like people who live out there. You don't mess around, right?
Right. My great grandma pinned her curtains shut every night. She pinned them with straight pins.
She did. What are some other things that your grandmother did?
Well, she did want us outside at night, and as we got older in our teenage years, we started wanting to camp out some. There, my great grandparents lived on my grandparents' farm, and my great grandmother and great grandfather did not like that we started camping outside at night. And my great grandfather would say that the boogers are going to get y'all, at least one or two of you, before it's over with. And they were serious. They did not like it.
By boogers, do you mean Bigfoot?
Yeah, that's kind of the catch-all term a lot of the old timers use, was boogers.
Mm-hmm.
Comes from the Cherokee word boojum, Boojum, and it was convoluted to booger over the years. Yeah. So a booger is going to get you. It could be anything from an alien to a Sasquatch to Spearfinger. A booger is a booger, and they're not good.
Mm-hmm. There's a place not too far from where I live right now, up in North Georgia, and it's up in Rome, Georgia. There's a place called Booger Holler, and I still have family to this day, like distant, cousins that live up there at Booger Holler, up in Rome, and there's plenty of boogers up there, plenty of boogers. I've been invited on a Bigfoot trip up there actually recently, up at Booger Holler. But when I was, I never put two and two together. I just saw here in Booger Holler. I'm thinking, first of all, when I was a kid, I was thinking nose boogers. So I thought, why would anybody call it that? But as I got into the Bigfoot stuff, I realized they're talking about Bigfoot probably.
Yeah. And matter of fact, if you will sometimes Google booger mask, and that's going to take you back to Cherokee tradition. And they made booger mask that were monsters. And that's how they thought that they might scare evil spirits and even monsters off.
Mm-hmm.
Boogers,
Oh, yeah.
word booger goes back a long way.
It does. It does. Well, it's steeped in, Cherokee, tradition out there as well. And you did mention Spearfinger being out there, but I mean, even the Moon-eyed people are infamous for being out in your area as well. Is that something that you heard about growing up?
No, I don't recall my great grandparents ever mentioning the Moon-eyed people, but they definitely talked about the little people.
Mm-hmm. The little people. I would wonder if that's the same thing.
I think that actually it probably is the same thing, or at least closely related to it.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I don't know. When I think of little people and stuff, I'm thinking of like living inside the mountains. And I mean, are there any like caves where you live as well? Because the caves are I've been talking about caves a whole lot lately, and the possibility of Bigfoots and Dogmen coming in and out of caves and secret underground bases and all that kind of stuff. But when I think of little people, I think about caves.
Yeah, we have some small caves. You have to go a little further northwest from here. As the crow flies, it's not that great of a distance, relatively speaking. But there are some small caves, and I've got a spring on my property that if you were small enough, you could actually go into the side of the little mountain there. It's just a small opening, but a little person could fit in there.
Oh yeah, definitely could. Oh my gosh. Well, okay, you had mentioned a word that you guys call Bigfoot. What is that word? You said, I want to say new. I started the N. Knobby. The knobbies. What is this? What's the story behind the knobbies?
The history of the cryptid activity here in the South Mountains area goes back a long ways. But in 1978 into 1979, there was a flurry of sightings here. And the first of these sightings that were reported, let me emphasize that were reported that year, was by a lady named Minnie Cook, who lived at the foot of Carpenter's Knob. And a reporter who was covering the story, because it went international, it was on the AP wire. And the reporter tagged the nickname Knobby onto the creature, and it stuck. So prior to that, of course, like I mentioned earlier, it was referred to as a booger. But also, I have no clue the history of where this word came from, but they called it Fossey Mo. And a wampus, or a wampus cat, which is kind of crazy considering it's a big creature walking on 2 feet, and they called it a wampus or a wampus cat. But then 1978, knobby became the official word, and everybody around here knows who knobby is or what knobbies are.
Whoa, that's interesting. Okay, well, the wampus cat is totally different, right? I mean, I've heard about the wampus cat. I think I've talked about it on a show before. I think I did a little research on it a while back. But that's something different, I would think.
Yeah, old timers would use wampus as a catch-all like booger.
Uh-huh.
But a wampus cat is something totally different.
Mm-hmm.
For sure.
Yeah.
But some people would call the creature here, the bipedal creature, they called it a wampus cat. And when I was studying this and talking to old timers around here, I always thought that was kind of funny.
Well, there's got to be something to it. Okay, there's got to be something to it, and that they're not just saying that for nothing.
We do have the Panthers here,
and
that time period of 1978, 1979, I came across an old documentary, very obscure, and in this documentary, some folks were interviewed. So it was clear during that time period they were having sightings of a Bigfoot type of creature, also a big black panther, and I'm going to tip my hat a little bit here to this week's episode that I'm going to do, but I think there's a possibility that was a third cryptid, and I think it might have been a Dogman.
Yeah, that's something that I've talked about quite a bit about not like quite a bit, but I've talked about the Appalachian. I call them werewolves too. Werewolves. Some people, the word Dogman didn't come around until recently, past couple decades. But the Appalachian Dogman and the Appalachian werewolves are often reported, okay, all over the Appalachians and namely in North Carolina, actually. So, wow, you've got a new episode coming out? Is it drop tomorrow?
Yeah, I'll put it on TikTok and YouTube about 9 o'clock tomorrow night.
Okay, sweet.
I'm covering this time period that I'm speaking of here in the Kaiser South Mountains area of between 1978 into 1979. And this interview, this documentary that actually Dwight Campbell found it on YouTube and he sent it to me. And there was a guy who's been dead many years, and I'd been trying to interview his descendants, never could. But this dude was interviewed in this documentary, and it broke everything open, and it made so many things make sense. It was a godsend, and I'm going to do part 2 tomorrow night.
Oh, good. Well, I can't wait to see that. That's going to be awesome. Have you taken Dogman reports around there before? Or have you heard of people seeing them around where you live?
I had a couple people talk about seeing the Bigfoots that they just didn't feel like looked to them like a Bigfoot. One in particular, over near Carpenter's Knob, said that he saw a Bigfoot except it had a muzzle. And he asked, do you think that it's actually a big bear? And I finished describing it, and I said, well, where was it? Where was its ears? And he said they looked like they were on top of its head, and that they were tall ears. And at the time, honestly, I didn't know much about Dogman and didn't even know where I stood, but I made careful note of that, and that'll be a future episode. But wow.
Oh yeah. By the way, your buddy Todd, your friend Todd's in the chat. Todd Lander says, Jerry, you got to tell the story behind the knobby chair that sits on your front porch. Okay. So don't forget to tell us that story in just a second. But this is a chart with some of the more widely reported types of dogmen around the United States, and we're actually around the world, really. But this is from I think the North American Dogman Project had this out for a while. And so this is just some pictures here, but I wanted to show this chart and then also show this Bigfoot chart that I have as well, because there is a type 3 Sasquatch. I said, yeah, it's down there at the bottom really, but it's a Bigfoot with the muzzle, and they call them the Gugway or the Genosqua. And those are kind of the more violent ones, I guess is what they say. And, but they have a long muzzle. Now I don't know, maybe they could be dogmen, too. So, but people say, I mean, they're so technical, people get so technical with it. But really we don't know what's what really, but that's just a way to kind of classify what people are seeing potentially. So I don't know. There's one famous Gugway sighting. People call the one that's the Beast of Seven Shoots. There's a picture of it looks like a snouted Bigfoot, and it's holding what looks like a dog or a pig or something underneath its arm. And it was filmed by a waterfall and I think it was in somewhere up in Canada above New York, I believe, is where that was. Maybe Vancouver or something. I don't know. Or Ontario. I don't know my geography of Canada, y'all. I'm so sorry. But it was up there. So that's one of the more well-known Gugway sightings in pictures that they have. So I don't know. I wouldn't put it past anything to be up there like that. I mean, I would assume they've got Gugways and everything up there where you live.
You know what? I don't discount anything anymore. The longer I live, I believe things now that I never thought I would believe.
Yeah, me too. Jerry, me too. It is anything is possible, and the answer is usually yes. Somebody asks me like, "What is there something out there?" Yes, absolutely. There's stuff out there. I don't know what it is. I don't have any answers. And the more that I do the boots on the ground field research, the less I know. Seriously. It's like my internet. Am I here? I'm sorry.
Here.
I think I froze for a second, y'all. I'm sorry.
I thought
internet. I probably froze. So yeah, it's we've been having a little internet issue over here lately. So but nonetheless, yeah, if you can imagine it, it's probably real. That's the way I look at life at this point.
Yep, I agree.
Yeah, for sure. But yeah, what's up with that knobby chair? Is there a story behind it?
There is, and I gotta say, give a shout out to my buddy Todd, and also Hound Dog is in here somewhere, and
I saw Hound Dog.
I believe Scoot is in here with his wife, I believe. So shout out to all of them. These are my people. So in Kaiser, there was a store. It closed many years ago. It closed 10 years ago. But it was called White's General Store. And they built a chair. They called it the knobby chair. And it's oversized. It's huge. And one of the White brothers died. And I heard that they were having an estate sale, and that the knobby chair was going to be there up for sale. And I went and I stayed all day. I think it was 8 hours, maybe a little longer. And in the end, nobody even bid against me, and I got the chair.
Oh my God! What? You wanted that chair. You needed that chair. It was meant for you. Is that a booger mask? What is that?
This was part of an exhibit that the same fellow, one of the White brothers, they commissioned an exhibit at the Cleveland County Fair one year, a knobby exhibit. And this was part of the mechanical knobby that he made that turned its head and moved its arm. And that day, I was the only one that bid on it. And I got the entire thing. It's dilapidated and probably not savable, but the head is in good shape.
I'll be darned.
It's like a mannequin head inside.
I like that.
I think I got it for $35, and I got the chair for, I think I'm gonna say $25.
Oh my gosh! Well worth the 8 hours that you sat there waiting to bid on that thing. Okay,
I was so tickled.
I love that. That's so sweet. Well, you are dedicated to the Bigfoot culture and tradition over here and the research, and I love it. Absolutely. That head that you just showed us, it reminds me of something. I don't know why I just had this flashback when you held that up. I thought about that. And almost like that gorilla from Showbiz Pizza. I don't know if anybody remembers those things. Okay. Kind of reminded me of that for a second. I had those animatronics, man. I don't know. I just had a flashback. But that's awesome.
Because after the county fair, the White brothers owned a pizzeria in Falston, and Knobby stayed in the pizzeria for a long time.
Oh my gosh. That's awesome. Todd, yes, he says he loves it. He loves it. Oh my gosh. Well, I just absolutely love that too. And so how did you even get into Bigfoot and your cryptid research and stuff? Because you grew up around it. Obviously, if you're living in that area of North Carolina, there's so much history of cryptids and Bigfoot and the Boogers out there. What got you into getting into a boots on the ground field research team? Did something happen to you that pushed you into it, or did you just meet a cool group of dudes? I kind of just met a cool group of dudes and ended up going out Bigfooting with everybody at some point.
Well, it was a progression. Okay, as a kid in the 70s, and the thing that got me first, the thing that sunk the hook, was the movie The Legend of Boggy Creek. My granddaddy took me to see The Legend of Boggy Creek, and all of you listeners, if you've never seen The Legend of Boggy Creek, then you haven't seen the grandfather of all Bigfoot movies. And so, that turned it into something I was fascinated with I think I was 8 years old when I saw it. And then in 1977, three big things happened in my life. I got to see Leonard Skinner, the real ones, before they had the plane crash. I got to see Elvis, and got to this book at the book fair at school. And I read this thing 100 times. So I had this fascination, and obviously it was very entertaining to me. And that's kind of where it stayed. Then in 1986, I found a book in the Fort Bragg Library called the Bigfoot Casebook. And lo and behold, there was a sighting in the book from Mount Holly, North Carolina, which is where my mom lived. And so I called the guy on the phone, and he talked to me. Fast forward to we moved here where we're at now. In August of 2017, my wife and I turned onto our dead end road. There was a field of corn, and standing out of the corn by the road, not 15 yards or so from our car, was this huge, broad-shouldered, big, black-colored booger, and it was obvious what it was. I mean, it was a knobby. It was a Bigfoot, and it took a second to register. I kind of slammed on brakes, and I was going to back the car up, shine the lights on it, and it stepped into the corn, and it was moving at a good rate. I couldn't see it anymore by the time I got the light situated, but you could see it off in the distance, its head above the corn. That's when I was all in. That's when the bug bit me, and there was no looking back.
Oh my God, that's fantastic.
I kind of started out by myself. Todd, that's in the chat with us, Todd Landers, became, the person that would come up, and we would traipse through the woods. And Todd went with me. We took National Public Radio into the woods. And then Dirty Sasquatching, which has now changed their name to Sasquatch Recon, with Dwight,
Tim,
and Tim. And then Tim invited me to come on to the NCI show on Channel 12 as a visitor or as a guest. And I went, and they asked me if I wanted to join NCI and if I wanted to be a part of the Channel 12 NCI show. So now I was in it neck deep. Now I'm in, 6 feet over my head. I'm loving every minute.
Oh my gosh, I love that. I love it. It's kind of like me. It was a snowball effect for me too. Getting into all this, of course, I'd been in it for a long time, like over 10 years before I ever spoke about it publicly, of course. But as soon as I spoke publicly about Bigfoot, it was just one thing after another. Every day I was just like podcasts and I got asked to do my own podcast on a digital broadcasting company thing. And here I am today, 3-4 years later. It's wild. It's wild. I speak at conferences all over the country now and stuff. And I'm loving it because it's what I love to do. And I know that's what you love to do. I know it's all those guys love to do this stuff. You guys are a hoot to hang out with, by the way, a hoot to hang out with. A lot of fun. Those guys are so cool.
You'll like this. As the Georgia Bigfoot conference was my first conference. And
really,
I saw the advertisement for it, and George and Robert said, and Tim said, we're going to be speaking. I said, wow. And then I saw on the poster, the Cryptid Huntress would be there. I said, no way, no way.
Oh my God.
I was looking so forward to that. And
well, thank you.
That was my first conference, and I can't wait to go to another conference. I love the festivals a lot, but the conferences are that's where the hardcore people are.
It is. Actually, I don't know if I talked to you personally since that conference, but that night, Saturday, after I met you guys on Saturday, that night, there were 3 sisters who sometimes are in the chat, actually, to this day. They came up there to come hang out at the conference and meet me. They're 3 sisters from 3 different states. And shout out to all you ladies, y'all. And they came and we all met. They watched my shows and stuff. And they were like, well, are y'all going Bigfooting tonight? They asked me, and I was like, well, yeah, I'm planning on going with some of these guys over here. I had like David Pardue was there. Some of my teammates, were out there, Matthew Delph and stuff. And some of those guys. And so I ended up taking them Bigfooting that night up in North Georgia, up about, I don't want to say an hour, like about 30-45 minutes from where we had the conference. I took them Bigfooting that night, and we found some good tracks. I mean, we had activity. We went to an old cemetery and all sorts of stuff. I wish y'all had been able to come. I wish I had known. I would have invited y'all. That's what I was trying to say. But I think you guys all left and went back to North Carolina that night, if I'm not mistaken, right?
We did. And you said snowball, and that resonates with me because, like I say, it started off slow. I was by myself. My first podcast ever, I was on a podcast called Bourbon and Badges, and they had said, hey, you want to come on Bourbon and Badges and talk about podcasts? I mean, talk about Bigfoot. And these guys are all retired cops. Hound Dog, that's in the chat right now, was one of the guys. They're still going. They're doing a series on serial killers right now. And so that was my first one, and that got my name out there a little bit. And then I did another one with them, and then the next thing I know, after Georgia, the Bigfoot conference in Georgia, all the contacts that I had, and then that just went exponential.
Oh,
and
yeah.
I can't believe where I'm at now with the knowing so many people, getting to meet you, getting to meet all these other folks. It blows my mind. I have to pinch myself. I literally.
That's funny. I love it. I mean, some of the most genuine, down to earth, cool folks are Bigfooters. Okay, they really are. And I have to say that sometimes I make the distinction because like there are some great Bigfooters that are online and have YouTube channels. We got a bunch of them in the chat tonight, by the way. But you know, the people, when you meet people in person, the people that are like boots on the ground, straight up, are just some of the best people ever. Like I said, there is a distinction. Okay, I'm not gonna go there tonight. Okay, but yeah, Bigfooters are so cool. I mean, the guys on my team, the guys and the ladies, are some of just the best people ever. And like I said, we got some great people in the chat. I wanted to take a little commercial break. Thank all these people for the super stickers in here tonight. It's Caleb J. Thank you so much for that. He says the hairy man on the Northern Cheyenne Res. Are you the hairy man, Caleb? I'm wondering. Okay. But thank you for being here tonight. They do have the Dogman, isn't it? The dog soldiers out of Cheyenne, I believe. I had my buddy Tom Springer on the show to talk about that before. And so that's really cool. Thank you so much for being here, Caleb. I appreciate that. Also, Kent Baxter, it's good to have you back. Thank you so much for being here tonight. I hope you're feeling good. And he says, glad to be back watching the best live show there is. Man, thank you. I appreciate that. Kent, you are the best. We do have the best live chat on the internet, for sure. 100%. So thank you so much for being here. And also, Amy, thank you so much for being here, girl. I appreciate you so much. She sent a super sticker as well. And shout out to you and Bonbon. And I love you guys so much. Thank you for being here. And also, Cheryl Cope, thank you so much. I think you're out of New Zealand. Oh my gosh. Wow. Enzi, thank you for the super sticker. And I appreciate your support so much. And we are worldwide right now, Jerry. Okay. Seriously, we are all over the world. We are broadcasting live from across the world, from our southeastern area of the United States over here, me and you. But man, this is so great. I mean, like I said, we do have a lot of Bigfoot field researchers in the chat right now, and people from all over the country too. You know, I just saw, what's up, William Nighthawk? William's in here. He's in Virginia, and I have sought advice from him before for some of the investigations that I've done. You know, I've gone up to cave investigations. I mentioned caves earlier. I had I've said the word enough tonight, so I have to say S Walker now. Okay, S Walker Cave up in Tennessee, and I did seek out some advice. And you know, sometimes we don't know what we're dealing with out there, right? And so it's smart to seek advice of elders or people who know kind of what to. I mean, not that they could save us if something were to happen, right? But the things we're doing out there, it can be really dangerous, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. I don't go in the woods by myself at night anymore.
You don't? That's smart.
I'm not going to end up on missing 411 and have a David Politis talking about me.
Okay. Yes. We don't want you going missing by any means. And there's so many different ways that people can go missing, but the Appalachians are notorious for having missing people out there. And that's actually one of the rules of all my teams, pretty much, is that we don't go anywhere alone, ever. We have constant radio contact. We keep somebody back at base camp. And we have our Beophones, you know, we've got our CB radios and stuff, and we're constantly radioing back to base camp to make sure we're in constant radio check. I mean, that is a huge deal. And you know, and you know, I mentioned earlier I've got a kid and stuff, and I'm real particular about where I even take him. And when I take him places, he doesn't go into like the hardcore research weekends. Like, he can't go to that kind of stuff because it's so dangerous. We've experienced portals out in the woods. We've actually documented at least one portal out there.
Wow.
And sent people into them.
there's parts of these woods that I won't go to by myself during the daytime. Now, I'll still go into the woods by myself, but there's areas that instinctively they don't feel safe. When you find areas that are hunting grounds where you find deer that are ripped apart with their ribs broken and their necks broken and legs snapped and legs pulled off, I'm not going into those areas by myself anymore.
No. Have you found like tree structures around your house and like where you live? Do you ever find like the bent over trees and tied with like a asterisk and X's and anything like that?
I found X's. I found a lot of tree breaks. I took George and Tim. They came here and we went into the woods to look at some of the deer kills, and we found one of the deers in particular. It had been ripped limb from limb, and its ribs were cracked. But part of the deer carcass was up in a little holly tree, and it had a jawbone hanging on the limb of another little tree. And then there was 2 tree breaks right beside the deer kill. They marked it for whatever reason, I don't know. But a lot of the tree breaks, a whole lot.
Do you think that was just like putting its food there to say? And I know you're not in the head of these things, so you don't know for sure. But did your intuition? Because I go by my intuition, my gut. Do you think it was like a marker, a warning, or was it just leaving its food there for later?
It was all that part of the deer. It was the backbone. It was the front end of the deer, from the middle of the spine all the way up to where the spine had been ripped off the skull, because part of the skull was still on the backbone. And I think it set it up in the tree just as a warning. I mean, I think that it did it to let us know this is ours. This is our area. And we want you to know that. I could be wrong, but that's what I believe.
I believe you're right too. That's what I think too. I've heard so many different people give like explanations. I mean, I remember hearing somebody say at a conference one day, they were like, well, they put I'm not laughing, y'all. I'm not laughing because I think we don't know why exactly. I just know they're markers, but I heard somebody say that they believed that it was where they reproduce, like wherever there's an X, like that's where they do the hanky panky right there. And I thought, oh man, if this X is rocking, don't come and knock it. But we really don't know, right? So it's just maybe it just depends on where you're at. Maybe.
Yeah. They leave signs. They left a sign on our back door one night. It was about this big, about the size of a silver dollar. And I'll have to send you a picture of it. Oh. It was just a weird look. It was made of grass, and it was very intricately put together where the grass was tied around the other blades of grass. I showed it to a lot of different people. We talked about it on the NCI show one night, and my friend Cindy, I don't know if she's in the chat or not. She probably is, but Cindy said that she felt like it was a bad sign, and I certainly made note of that.
Huh.
You remind me afterwards. I'll send you a picture of that.
Okay, I would love to see that. So it was like a interwoven, like circular, like a basket weaved thing, but it was just like a circular, like grass woven together.
It didn't have a circle around it, but it almost looked like the pi symbol in a way, but not quite.
How cool is that? That is really cool. I mean, my buddy David Pardue, I think you got to meet David at the Georgia Bigfoot Conference. He's out of North Carolina as well, and he's had some bones left on his porch before, and like I'm just gonna say animal parts or something, and that's sometimes we get that. I woke up one morning to like the jawbone of an animal on my back porch one time. And I thought, man, that is weird. I figured maybe a squirrel had drug it up there, but now I look back on it, I'm like, well, maybe it was a Bigfoot or something. It was too big for a squirrel to pull up there.
Yeah.
But, yeah. I don't know. Your rational brain wants to make sense of it when you see stuff like that. So the first thing you think of is like, oh, it had to be a squirrel, had to be something that's back there. It was a hawk brought it over to me, but maybe not. Probably Bigfoot.
It wouldn't surprise me. I mean, The sky's the limit. as far as I'm concerned.
Oh yeah.
They are.
Do what now? I'm sorry.
They know who you are.
Oh, they do. That's right. They do. Well, I'm a firm believer that the Bigfoots actually know that we're coming out to the woods. And one of my spots, I live about 2.5 hours from, that I go to occasionally. And I've been going to for over almost 2 decades now. I believe they know we're coming before we get there. And that's why, there's a whole other element, like an X factor to Bigfoot and some of these cryptids. It's like let's call it telepathy or just some kind of energetic connection or something like that. I think they know when we're coming.
Yeah, you're not going to go in the woods and surprise them.
No, not at all. No, you're definitely not. And I've actually had friends with me before who, when I go out there by myself, or not, I don't go by myself, but when I'm with my team, it's a whole other energetic vibration. It's a whole other feel when I'm out there with them than if I bring like a friend with me that's never been out there before. It's not so nice feeling. Like they don't make it they make it a point to like make people uncomfortable, I think sometimes. Maybe so they don't go back because they're not used to that new person.
I agree. Yeah. And there can be a personality within the group that they don't like, and you won't have an encounter that night.
No, that's right. Absolutely. I agree with that. And Javier just said, I believe Bigfoots guide you to certain areas. Yes, I believe that too. They will guide you away from certain areas and they'll guide you to certain areas. And he was also saying we take tobacco as an offering to our hotspot areas. Do you ever gift any of the Bigfoots out there?
There's a ridge south of here, and I'll go up there and string fruit up. I string it up high enough where the deer can't reach it. I use a twine and tie it between trees. That way, if a raccoon or a possum climbs out on the string will break. So every time I go back and check the places, and the fruit's gone and the strings are gone, completely gone, untied from around the trees or broken and gone. I've never found the string that I've left out there.
They're probably looking at that and they're like, ooh, I could use that. I could tie some leaves together with that or something. I mean, it's just another tool for them to use, really. I like that. Yeah. That's actually pretty smart. Yeah. I don't think I've ever left any gifts out there. I can't remember ever leaving anything for the Bigfoots. I was always kind of warned not to do that, but let's go back to David one more time. I brought up David a couple times tonight. Pardew's up there in North Carolina, and he used to go out and leave like chickens and stuff for the Bigfoots, and that's kind of how he ended up part of the. He may be in the chat tonight. I don't know. Shout out to David Pardew, but he had like I want to say like a relationship, if you want to call it that, like knowing the Bigfoots and watching their babies grow up from like young children to like grown adults and stuff. Like he had I'm going to say like a relationship with the Bigfoots out there. So it's not always a bad thing to gift, I guess.
Our friend Robert in NCI, you know Robert, if he has a goat that dies, he will leave them the goat.
Oh, whoa. So does he have a goat farm or something?
He does.
Oh my gosh. Well, do they take it?
Yep.
They do?
They do.
Okay. I asked Robert to come on the show too one day. So we're gonna have Robert on the show. I can't wait to talk to him about that.
We'll love it.
That would be awesome. I've never heard of anybody doing that, but man, and I would assume that would be like a goat that died of natural causes, right?
Right. Yeah.
Okay. Oh my gosh. So those Bigfoot, well, that's a good way to make friends with Bigfoot, I guess.
Well, he seems to have established a rapport, even a relationship with the ones that are in his area. As crazy as that sounds. And I no longer care if anybody calls me crazy, because they've called me that before, and I just look at them and say, yeah, I'm crazy. What's your excuse?
We're all a little bit crazy, Jerry. Okay. You got to be a little crazy to do what we do, first of all. Okay. And then a little more crazy to talk about it to the public and across the world right now. Okay. We are, like I said, we are broadcasting live across the entire world right now. So yeah, we're a little bit crazy, and that's fine. I accepted it a long time ago, and I love it. I don't mind. I'd rather be crazy than not crazy. I'm just saying. We're way more fun than people that aren't, right?
And I wanted to stay in the shadows. After the encounter in 2017, I really started doubling down, and I started talking to some of the old timers, and there was a couple. I talked to them for a couple years before they would talk to me about it, and finally they did. I won their trust, I guess. And then I went to work up here in Kaiser at a little country store, and the owner called me, and she knew that I'd been studying this, and she knew the story. And Fox came to town to do a documentary, and they asked her if did she know anybody that would be willing to be interviewed. And I said, I'll think about it. So I wound up calling the dude in LA, the producer guy. And I said, I'll do it, but you got to silhouette me and disguise my voice. And he said, okay, no problem. Well, it aired they came to Kaiser, they filmed, and then it aired in January 21. They silhouetted me, but they did not disguise my voice. And everybody in 3 counties knew it was that dude that works up at the store. Well, that led to people a little bit at first. They trickled in at first, but over time it became more common. People came to tell me their stories. That's how I got into collecting these stories, and that's what led me to start the show. But I reached that point where I didn't care what anybody thought anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And doesn't that feel good?
It does. It does. It's much more free feeling. And yeah, I mean, I don't honestly, like, the way I look at things today, it's like all about like energy and frequency and vibration in my world. And I've learned that anyone who was like making fun of me back in the day, I don't even hang out with those people anymore. If they didn't evolve with me, they're not here around me anymore. Okay. And I know that I am not being snooty, y'all. I'm just not. But you know, it's just the way I look at the world right now. It's like, you know, I like to hang out with, I welcome new friends and people that are on the same vibe as me. And, you know, I ain't got time to explain myself to people. I don't care. I quit caring. There's no need to explain ourselves to people. You know, we have our own experiences, and that's my reality, and that is what it is. And people want to make fun, they can go over there and make fun. Don't come around me. Okay.
But you know, after that happened, I only had one person ever give me a hard time. Just one.
Really?
And I was very surprised at that. But the folks around here are so used. It's not a subject that's talked about, Jessica. And people didn't make fun of me because so many people have had their experiences. They just hadn't come forward.
Yeah. Sometimes it takes one person to speak up, and then it gives other people the courage to come and speak their truth as well. And so that's why I love doing what I do, because I know that I give a voice to people that didn't really feel like ever telling their story. And so I get contacted by a lot of people too. And I can really appreciate that. And, you know, I was going to ask you something else, because I saw this comment from, let's see, who left this comment? It was Mike. Mike said, I walked up on one asleep at Fort Bragg. We're talking about Bigfoot. I believe we're talking about Bigfoot. And you were stationed at Fort Bragg. I had an uncle who spent most of his career at Fort Bragg. He was 82nd Airborne, Command Sergeant Major, actually, for a while. He was probably there when you were there, actually. And I remember going there a lot when I was a kid. I went to his wedding up there when I was real little. I remember that. But Fort Bragg is known for very high strangeness up there.
Yes.
It is. And I mean, I've heard stories from, it's the airborne school, right? And,
well, it's the airborne. The airborne school's in Fort Benning, but the 82nd Airborne.
Oh, Benning's here. Yeah.
I hand over my heart. The 82nd Airborne, 18th Airborne Corps, Special Operations Command, they're all at Fort Bragg. So it's the home of the Airborne and Special Operations. And Fort Bragg is a sprawling military base and a lot of wilderness. I think it was about 1987, maybe into 88. We were on the side of Fort Bragg where there's a little camp called Camp McCall. And we were out there for a couple of weeks, and a couple of the guys that were new, as we called them, cherries, they wanted to go we had some downtime. They wanted us Southerners to take them on a hike into the woods. And we found a pit, and it wasn't like a gut pit like you'll see with deer hunters. We found kind of a big, it was a natural pit, but there was so many animal bones down in that pit.
Whoa.
And they were freaked out, and I was freaked out. And I said, we should probably not be in this area. That was my one experience at Fort Bragg, outside of hearing some strange things from time to time at night when we were out in the weeds, as we said. But you're right. Fort Bragg has some strange stuff going on.
Yeah, they do. A lot of it. And I just did a show on last Monday, actually, this past Monday. It was Memorial Day. It was also my birthday. Okay. But on Memorial Day, I actually did a live show that day. And my good friend Cryptid, who's in the chat tonight, he is a military veteran as well. We talked about military encounters with cryptids. And he had his own. There are a lot of people that I know who have had cryptid encounters on military bases or some type of military installment. And that's not only in the United States, but even across overseas as well. And I have to wonder, like, I don't think that all the encounters, because the encounters that I've been told were just like when the guys were out doing drills out in the middle of the woods and they come face to face with a Bigfoot. Okay, that happens pretty often. But I would, I don't know how to say this. I guess with the Dogman encounters and stuff, the Dogmen that are seen on military bases, I wonder sometimes, like, if our military is aware of them.
I think that they are. And a friend of mine that I've made since I joined the NCI team, Brian Sawyer, Boom Boom, as we call him, he's up in Michigan. But you have to check him out. He's got some pretty good information, some pretty good theories on a connection between the military and the government and Dogman. And it's very interesting. And that's was back when I was first hearing a lot of information on Dogman, and I wasn't sure where I stood there right at the first. But the more information I got on the subject, and I heard Brian talking about it, and then George and Robert and Tim. And I said, you know what? These things are real. And I think there's a connection in some places. I think the military, the government may have even had them in captivity or something. I don't know.
Well, it makes you wonder a little bit. And you living up in the mountains, one thing that I was shown when I was up near, and I don't know how far you are from like the Cashers area, and is it Cullowhee? Is that the name of it? Maybe I don't know if that's where I was or not. I can't remember. But when I was with Chief David, we were driving near Judaculla. We were going up near the rock. We were in between like Cashers and Judaculla at some point. And we were driving, and we had a couple of his friends with us, or at least one of his friends was with us. And he pointed out to me, he said, this is the entrance to an underground military base, a deep underground military base is what he pointed it out. And he said, that's the entrance. You can't see it, but you go down here and there's an entrance to a deep underground military base right there. Is what he told me. Yeah. So I wonder, my question has always been like, first of all, what is there a connection to these deep underground military bases and all these clusters of missing people up there? And a connection to the cryptids and the cryptid sightings up there too. Because it seems to be like the deep underground military bases are said to be, and I think I got a map right here. I don't know, maybe some deep underground military bases. We can see if there's any in that area up there, but oh yeah, well, it doesn't show any so much in Western North Carolina right there, but there's one up in East Tennessee, and there's one in the middle of North Carolina down the south part right there. But nonetheless, I don't know. I don't know if that's where I was, where that dot is right there. I don't know if that's where Cashers is. I don't think so. Let me go back and look. No, it's over.
Near Union County, North Carolina, near Monroe.
Okay.
Which is about maybe two hours from me, east of me.
Well, I just have to say, this map, I don't know who made that map right there. I don't even know if that's a real map of all the deep underground military bases. That's just what I found online. And I'm pretty sure all the deep underground military base entrances are not going to be on that map right there. And if Chief David showed me where that base was, I believe him. And I don't see a dot right there where he showed me. Okay, so, but anyways, I'm just saying, whatever kind of maps that we've got and there's like out to the public, I can guarantee everybody it's probably not everything. They're never going to leak everything out. I don't care how much information they have.
There is a small base, and we'll talk about this off the air.
Okay.
But small base within driving distance of northwestern Cleveland County, without a doubt. There's Cindy. She just commented.
Who did?
Cindy Sapp.
Let's see. Where's Sandy? Oh, there's Sandy. Oh, right here. Yeah, she says nope.
Yeah, it's yeah. I'll tell you about that, but it's not even a 20-minute drive from this area.
Oh man, I mean, we could even get into like the Brown Mountain Lights. How far are you from where the Brown Mountain Lights are?
As the crow flies, straight line distance, I don't know. It's probably 40 miles, but we have our own light. And I think that they're the same. It's the same phenomena as you see in Brown Mountain and in the Linville Gorge. I have got so many weird videos with the weird lights over the last 10 years. Incredible videos, and people that's been here, that's camped with me. We did night hikes, and the lights are a thing, and they're a thing all the time.
Yeah. Okay. One of the constants that we usually always have out in the field. Most of the times I go out in the field at night, we have orbs out there. There's always some kind of light phenomenon. And even if like there's a flash of light and then, or an orb like goes through the woods, then you hear like a huff and a growl and stuff. It's just, there's some kind of connection to a lot of these orbs and lights and the cryptids out there.
Absolutely. There's no doubt about it.
That's what I think.
Yeah. I agree with you 100%.
Yeah. Todd, thank you so much for letting me know. Cullowhee is in Western North Carolina. Yes. I think I was in Cullowhee, actually. It's where I was, but I'm not sure. That's not too far from Cashers. I actually watched the sky ships over Cashers while I was out there. Now, you've heard of that, right? They've even got their own website and everything for the sky ships. It's like these UFOs that fly over. And somebody in the chat, Jennifer, was saying that I've heard they have alien bases off that little map. I watched this Chief David called in every night that we were out there. He grabbed his staff. He had like a stick that he had tied a big crystal onto the top of it, and he held it up. And today they talk about the psionics, right? The psionics of like the military can call in UFOs and stuff like that's a big deal, right? I was watching Chief David doing that like 15 years ago. Okay, where he stood on top of this mountain, on top of this vortex of a mountain that we were camped out on. And he just said, whenever he was ready, he was like, y'all want me to call him in? I was like, yeah, let's call him in. Let's all get abducted. Yay. But he went out there with his staff and he held it up and he pointed it in the direction of wherever these things were coming from. And they just showed up out of the blue and they just hovered over us the entire night. Every night he did the same thing and they'd come up and they'd show up right when he did that, whenever he did it. And they just hovered over us. So it was weird, but it was cool. It's also cool. I don't know if we got abducted. I don't know. I hope not.
Have you followed any of Dr. Stephen Greer's stuff? Have you?
Yes. We have actually practiced that CE5 protocol out in the woods before. Doing like at the meadow. And yeah, to me, that's like alien Ouija board. Okay. I'm just saying. I gotta be careful. I've had up close and personal contact with aliens twice that I remember. And I'm not a huge fan of that personally, but I mean, it is what it is. But why call them in if the reason, and here's why I'm saying this, because I believe the reason that I had the up close alien contact was because I started doing Bigfoot research. It didn't start until I started researching Bigfoot and we had UFOs flying over us out in the field. So yeah.
There's that connection.
Mm-hmm. So you think there's a connection? You know there's a connection, right?
There has to be. There has to be, based on all the experiences in this area. High strangeness in the South Mountains area. The lights have always been a thing, and they're still a thing. I bet I could go outside right now if I stood long enough. I would see one.
Yeah, for sure. Hey, you can go get you a staff, get you a stick, and tie a crystal on it, and do the psionics. Okay, and it's so wild that we call it today. It's like the psionics is like the key term. It's like the buzzword, and it was really just tuning into it psychically, and that's really like what my Bigfoot team does. Is like we're more into like the my one main team. We're into like the telepathy aspect of like communicating with the cryptids, like with Bigfoot and stuff. And so psionics are not, I guess is just I never called it that. Okay, never called it that, but that's kind of what we do is tuning into the psychic aspect of all this. So yeah, it's a great way to research it.
I think I'll let Todd Landers hold the staff and the crystal, and I'm going to get a safe distance and say, all right, big boy, do your thing.
Let Todd do it. Yeah, give it all to Todd so the ETs will show up at his house in the middle of the night later. Okay, that's what happened to me.
Yeah. So we'll see if Todd's down with that or not.
Todd's laughing. I see him in here. He just did a laughy face. Yeah. Well, you know, it's when it comes down to like the boots on the ground field research and stuff out there. I mean, my team, like I mentioned earlier, like we had encountered a portal. The team had a portal encounter, and after that happened, the team actually had to sit down. The guys sat down and had a meeting as to like, okay, what happens? What's the protocol if we ever encounter another portal? Who has the best life insurance? Who has the best, health insurance? Raise your hand. Who wants to tie a rope around their waist and like go in and like who's going to pull them out and who's going to hold the rope? And it was just a weird conversation. You know what I mean? Like to have a team, you have to like come up with something. This stuff's never been done before that we know of. There's no protocol to like walking into a portal out in the middle of the woods in the Appalachians. So anyways, it can get kind of funny. I mean, if we're not laughing, we're crying, I guess, right?
Yeah, we could title that method as the let's see if we can wind up on missing 411 method.
Oh my gosh, I know, right? That's the last thing we want. We don't want to end up on that. That's why we have real protocols and stuff here, okay? And that's why we had to come up with a protocol in case there was ever another portal. But you know what? Sometimes you just shouldn't go poking around where you don't need to go poking around, though, Jerry.
I agree.
Yeah.
If I get that feeling, I'm going to stop and evaluate the situation.
Yeah. Evaluate. I'm a mom of a young kid, and so I will not volunteer to walk into a portal, y'all. I'm just not, Jerry. I'm not. Maybe when my son gets older, I will rethink that. I'll rethink it. But right now, I'm all he's got right now, so I'm not going into a portal willingly.
Your son needs you.
He does. Yes. And I have to be here to talk to the audience, you guys. Okay. So we've got the Cryptid Hunters channel and this amazing audience. I mean, where else? I mean, there's the best chat in the whole world over here. And so I'm not going to go off into the woods and go disappear into a portal, y'all. Okay.
They would miss you.
Yeah. So I would miss them too. I'd be very upset about that. But nonetheless, well, I mentioned portals. Okay. Let's talk about portals for a second because these missing people, okay, the Great Smoky Mountains has a huge missing persons cluster. Okay, now going back to like the 1960s, there was a case of a young boy who went missing, Dennis Martin, and I think that was in 66, maybe if I'm not mistaken, or 64.
69.
And 69. Okay, thank you. He went missing. He was never found. Not a trace of him. And some people say that eyewitnesses said they thought they saw like a wild man running off with them or something, or maybe a feral person. I mean, could feral people account for some of these missing people out there, you think, in the Great Smoky Mountains?
I think so. I think that's a high probability.
I think so too. Have you ever encountered a feral person out there where you live or research?
The closest I've come personally was finding the footprint of a human who was clearly feral because the foot was so flat. And that was about 30 minutes west of me. We found there was a cave that had been revealed by a controlled burn. We went there. We found that track, and we found that a flat-footed being, or beings plural, was coming in and out of that cave. But here, really close to where I'm at, a family came to camp here, and they good friends of mine. They brought their kids. Right, let's see, the youngest I think at the time was 7, all the way up to their 22-year-old. And that night, they encountered. They had an encounter where they heard this strange language being spoke from the darkness, and it was 2 different individuals. And there was, the witnesses say that they wasn't sure if it was Bigfoot or if it was actual people. My friend's wife actually thinks that it was a person. She doesn't rule out Bigfoot, but she leaned toward it being a person speaking this unknown language. So they had that encounter. I've never heard the gibberish. I've never heard the strange language. That's what I want to hear. That's the one thing I haven't got to hear. But I think it was a strong possibility that a couple feral people had moved in close to their camp that night. And I believe that they, there's no telling what their motives were. But they were up close and personal.
Okay, well, that's kind of terrifying a little bit. And I don't know. I always say that I'm more worried about humans than I am Bigfoot out there. And I don't think I've ever come across like feral people out where I've been before. But I really don't know. When I hear of feral people, I think of like that movie The Hills Have Eyes. Okay. And that's creepy. Okay. It's pretty creepy. But I mean, people do go off and live off grid. Okay. I'm sure there's people that live even in the caves. I mean, I actually told a story one day about how when my great aunt separated from her husband a long time ago, it might have been in like the 70s or 80s, maybe. I don't even know. The family said that she went and lived in a cave with her kids for a little while. And that was up in North Georgia. It's like, man, that's, to me, caves creep me out a little bit. I've done investigations in caves. But people do live in caves sometimes. And it's a great place to go seek shelter when it's hot outside. And, if it's raining or there's something, it's just people have always lived underground and stuff. So, but feral people are like a whole other breed though, right? Because feral would mean like they are cut off completely from modern society, right, Jerry?
And have been cut off for generations, I think. To the point of evolving their own language.
Oh my gosh. So their own language. When you were talking about the gibberish thing, I was thinking about like samurai chatter or something, like where the Bigfoots do that. But if they've got their own language, man. Wow.
Yeah, I sent friends a link to the samurai tapes. And they listened to them, and there was, they said, well, there's definitely was some similarity. It wasn't a known human language. And my friend's wife is a very, very smart person, very well read. And she made the statement and said it was not a known language. It was definitely an unknown language. And there was some similarities with the samurai tapes, also known as the Sierra sounds. But I almost wonder if they didn't have the feral people come in on them. Maybe, I don't know. Maybe interested in the sounds of their kids playing that day or something. And that's scary stuff.
It is scary stuff. Well, it's scary when Bigfoots are also, curious about the children as well. Okay. Because, historically, especially through like some of the Native American oral traditions, especially, it's like, well, some of the, not only Bigfoots, but giants, okay, giant humans and Bigfoots have historically kidnapped women and children.
Yep. A lot of Native American lore across North America where they were very fond of snatching women and kids.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, that's why I don't take my kid deep out in those woods when we do our research weekends. Okay, just in case. But yeah, it's it's pretty scary. And okay, I know this is like kind of wild, right? But I saw a video. Okay, I'll say I saw a video of someone who had been doing some research on places like in Gatlinburg, and I used to go to Gatlinburg when I was a kid to go like skiing at Ober Gatlinburg and stuff. And today they have like Dollywood, and there's all sorts of tourist attractions in Gatlinburg, which is right in the heart of the Great Smoky Mountains, right? And someone had sent me some information. It was like a video or like some kind of post, or someone had done some research on underground of Gatlinburg, and we're warning. Actually, it was almost like a Disney World kind of situation where they were like warning, there are tunnels underneath Dollywood. That's what they were saying, and there were. It could be potentially why some of those children were going missing and stuff up there. And I'm not saying that. This is for entertainment purposes only, y'all. Okay, I'm not stating this as fact by any means, but I'm just saying there are places up there as well that could be like hubs for trafficking and things like that as well. So it's just something to think about when it comes to the Great Smoky Mountains up there.
And you look at the vastness of the Great Smoky Mountains, reaching all the way out to the foothills on both the North Carolina and Tennessee sides. And you go back through history, say, for example, 1838, 1839, they start rounding up Cherokee to take them on the Trail of Tears. Well, a lot of them fled into the wilderness. Over years, there's people who became disillusioned with society and just completely broke from society. And I'm talking back in the 1800s. And it's so vast. And from a geologic standpoint, there could easily be tunnels under one of the major cities like that. And who knows what nefarious purposes they could be used for.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And we have such a wild, terrible issue with like human trafficking and stuff in our country. And but of course we're focused on cryptids over here. And but one of the soapbox that I stand on a lot of times is like figuring out where all these missing people are going, especially the children, and people have asked me plenty of times, well, do you think Bigfoot's kidnapping them? And I'm like, well, it could attest for like a small, tiny percentage, right? But I think it's probably more generally like humans and stuff. And I kind of, of course, I started off mentioning all this because of the Dennis Martin case. And like I said, nobody ever really did figure out what really truly happened to him. But it seemed a little fishy. And I had, I don't know. My buddy Greg Ogles just did a documentary on that, and I did sit down with him and we did a little segment for his film on that, because I had done some remote viewing of the Dennis Martin case a while back, about a year ago, and I think that he probably was a victim of human trafficking actually out there. But like I said, somebody had said they thought maybe they saw like a wild man running off with them or something. Yeah. So.
Yeah, the thing that opened my eyes more than anything else on the possibility of feral people, and by the time that I heard this story from this witness, I already believed in feral people, but it really didn't hit home with me. Now he in 1978 he had developed a love for going on solo hikes and solo camping, and he was camping not too awfully far from here, between here and the Linville Gorge. So he set up camp during the daytime, and he went on a hike, or he started to go on a hike the next day. And he got down the trail. Well, it wasn't a trail. He didn't use trails, but he got away from camp just 5 minutes away. He had a rock in his boot, or a pebble. And so he sat down to take his boot off and get the pebble out. And he heard these noises. He heard like a clicking and tree knocks. He got the rock out of his boot, and he got up and he continued on his hike, but it bothered him, the clicking noise especially. He was a veteran of being out in the Appalachian wilderness, and he just stopped, and he said it bothered him so bad. He got his thermos out of his backpack, and he sat down and was sipping on coffee. And he heard voices, and it was the voices that seemed to not be speaking English. And he decided to head back toward camp. And suddenly, from his left and right, he heard this clicking noise. And it sounded like a human making a clicking noise with their mouths. And as he topped the hill going back to his camp, there was these three individuals that were dressed in these ratty clothes. One of them looked kind of misshapen. And he said it's right as it ran away from him, its right shoulder hung lower than its left shoulder in a real weird looking way, a freakish way. And they had absolutely destroyed his camp and raided it. Took almost everything and dropped some pots and pans, and that was about it. And of course he bugged out and came back the next day with help, with some reinforcements, but they didn't have any encounters. They even they set up a camp and feigned as though they were going to go hiking, and they set up a few minutes away. But he made the statement to me, he said, you know, from the time I entered that area, I had eyes on me, and they were human eyes, and these were feral people. And I think that they account for a big percentage of the people that go missing in the deep woods. I think in some of these national parks, I think there's dirt bags, just regular people who go in there and hide and see if they can snatch somebody. But when you get into the deep woods, especially in the Appalachian Mountains, there is no telling what you're going to run into. And I would much rather run into a Bigfoot than a feral person who has been in the wilderness so long. Their parents were in the wilderness, their grandparents, who knows how far back. They've developed their own language. That is not my cup of tea.
No, actually, that is super scary, pretty terrifying, actually. And yeah, it's pretty sinister, actually. It's very sinister. And I would much rather come across a Bigfoot too. But yeah, I don't even know what to say right now, because this is not something that I've had to deal with personally on a personal level. There is a gentleman that I did contact a little while back, and it's called Black Mass Paranormal, I think. And he's up in East Tennessee, actually. And I contacted him a while back, and we sent some messages back and forth. And he just put out a video recently about the feral people up in East Tennessee, which is right there by where you are. Okay. But talking about how, well, are they utilizing the tunnel systems? Okay. Some kind of tunnel systems underneath the mountains right there. And there was some kind of like declassified documents, or there's like some kind of, they admitted there's like all these tunnels underneath there. And his question was like, well, are they utilizing these and like ambushing people by using all those tunnels? And I mean, I think I think a step further, and I take it a step further, and I'm like, well, where all these people are going missing, well, maybe there's some kind of, maybe it's not just feral people. Maybe it's like, I hate to say our government, or like, this is for entertainment purposes only, y'all. But like some kind of agency, or like, I don't know, even reptilians. I know that sounds crazy, right? But just something super sinister is definitely going on. That's all I know.
If they're doing any kind of experiments or tests, they're going to need subjects. They're going to need people for it. I wouldn't put it past. For entertainment purposes only, of course.
Exactly. I have to always say that during my shows. It's for YouTube purposes. It's for entertainment purposes only, y'all. Because we don't know for sure. It's all hearsay. We're just putting ideas out there. Is what we're doing. But yeah, it's this could be a real threat. And not only do we worry about feral people, but also, like you said, they're just, some sickos can go out there and just hide and see if they can grab people too. One of my biggest pet peeves is like when I used to have one of my friends, she passed away last year, and RIP to Whitney, but she used to love going hiking by herself. And she is just I'm kind of like, I am not a little woman. Okay. Like I'm like 5'8", something like that. And I will beat somebody's butt if I need to. Okay. Like I'm not dainty. Okay. I'm no delicate rosebud, y'all. And, but she was pretty small. Okay. Like Whitney was little. And, I don't know. I hated that when she would go hiking by herself. Cause I was like, you know what? You're a perfect victim. I'm just saying. Be careful, women. That's all I'm saying, y'all. All the ladies are listening to me right now, and guys too. Y'all, please don't go hiking by yourselves. Just don't. It's not smart. At least take a dog, like have a vicious dog with you or something. Okay. Don't wear your earbuds. Okay. Don't ever wear your earbuds, and take some kind of personal protection, whether it's bear spray or whatever. It doesn't matter. Because there are things that will eat you and things that will grab you. Right, Jerry?
Exactly. And I tell people, when you step into, and I call it the deep wilderness, I think you get what I'm saying. Say, for example, you go into the interior of these South Mountains, 100,000 acres, areas where human foot has probably never stepped, or anywhere into these deep wilderness areas of the Appalachian Mountains. You're stepping into the unknown, literally. We don't know what we don't know out there. Too many stories of people who were more than capable of defending themselves just going missing, never being found, or being found dead later under very mysterious circumstances. So take caution, take precautions, and I just don't think it's a good idea to go into the deep wilderness by yourself.
Good advice. Me neither. Don't ever go by yourself, y'all. And like me, even too, like I try not to ever go by myself anywhere. Okay. But I do have a gigantic German Shepherd. If you guys follow me on social media, you will see my whiny butt dog over there. Okay. She went to the woods with me today, actually. And she is a gigantic German Shepherd, and she's been fully trained, y'all. Okay. She's my protection a lot of times. She's part of my protection. She's my security detail. Okay, out there. And Jerry, I joke around sometimes with the audience. I'm like, one day I'm going to have a werewolf security team. Okay. All werewolves. Okay. What's that? Is that a Negan bat? Is that what that is? Is that real?
Oh yeah. What a better weapon to take than a Negan bat. I will shut that crap down.
Oh my God. You ain't doing tree knocks with that one, are you?
No, you kill the tree.
Oh my God.
No,
that's real?
Oh yeah, I made it.
Jeez. Oh man, that means business.
That's my show and tell for the night.
Oh my gosh. I was hoping you'd have your dog in your lap tonight, actually. I was kind of hoping we get to see Scoot tonight.
You want to see him?
No, we don't have to. It's okay. It's okay. I bet it's late, so I bet he's sleeping. Considering how old is Scoot again? He's like 15.
He was 15 when he got lost, so that's been a couple years. So now he's 17, 18.
Oh my God, that is really old for a dog. Actually, that's very old for a dog. My God, he's like over 100 years old.
He's incredible.
In dog years. Wow, he's got quite the survival story too. Maybe he found the fountain of youth while he was gone.
He might have.
Yeah, maybe they fed him something that just like kept him young at heart. I mean, okay, so if he ate meat, if he had meat in his stomach, I know I'm going back to thinking about him going missing. You said that I know it's kind of gross. The audience, there's probably a lot of people who were not in here in the beginning of the show who are here now. I mentioned the poop. I was like, I would have looked to see like where he went. It was a mystery as to how long he had been gone. You said that you did pay attention to that, and it was meat. He had been given a meat diet for the past 19 days, but he didn't have teeth. So could it have been it wouldn't have been like dog food, like somebody had like gotten him and given him some dog. It was straight meat.
Yeah, you can, the consistency of the poop, if it's like dry dog food, it's going to look a certain way. If it's canned food, it's going to look similar. But if you're eating some kind of raw meat, you're going to, the consistency is going to be gummy or, gosh, I know that's.
I know. Hey, we talk about poop occasionally on the show. We're talking about Bigfoot research, y'all. Okay, so it's going to come up.
But they would have had to chew the food up and then give it to them. After they chew it up, spit it out, and let them eat it.
Oh my God, like a mama bird. That's kind of deep. I mean, this is a complex issue, and I'm fascinated by it. With your dog going missing for 19 whole days and then showing back up in the middle of the creek bed with no footprints around it. Like it was just placed there by some unseen force. It had to be kind of big if it like plopped your dog over there. I mean, unless it went up in a spaceship with, like the missing 411 cases, but I doubt it. You don't hear about dogs going missing like that and then showing right back up in a place like that. But you hear about humans sometimes having that happen, like kids.
There was one thing that I forgot to mention. That's why I need to look at my notes, because I have about 94 pinballs bouncing around in my head. But I wanted to do a promo for my show. So me and Scoot got in my truck and we drove down to the big creek, and we got in the creek on a rocky sandbar. and I set my camera up, and this was late in the evening. And off to the west of us, I heard something we hear quite a bit, especially about sundown until sun up the next morning. But I heard the whoop noise, whoop, whoop. And Scoot got excited and started barking, and he rarely barks. So that could be coincidence, or it could be a big puzzle piece to explain the story.
That's a clue right there. That's a clue. I think it sounds like he was excited about it.
I said, is that your friends? And I actually set him down because I needed to put the camera in the tripod. And he started walking that way, and I had to grab him.
Oh, well, I think those are his friends, apparently.
Too. I mean, something took care of him, something fed him, and he was in good shape.
Dare I say Scoot got kidnapped by a Bigfoot? Okay. Maybe it's not kidnapped. Because you said that he did kind of wander off, right? So like he went off on his own accord probably, but he probably got just kind of turned around because he can't see and he can't hear. And he was in distress, like you said, and somebody scooped him up. One of his furry friends.
First day, about the time he made it down to the creek bottom, I believe that he was scooped up.
He was scooped up. Well, I think it was nice that they brought him back to you. And it was a happy ending.
It was, because I did not see that coming. I really didn't.
You didn't see it. Well, I'm just glad he came back and he's good to go. I know a couple people in the chat were saying they would love to see your dog. Okay, but you also got your dog on your TikTok and your YouTube channel as well. So if you guys want to see, Jerry has some great videos with his dog in there. So
yeah, I think it was this week. I did a short video with Scoot because so many people ask about Scoot all the time. So I did a quick video and said, here he is. He's great. He's doing good and he's loving life. So it's right there near the top on my TikTok and my YouTube. They can see Scoot. His new shirt. He's got a new Bigfoot shirt.
Oh, does he? Scoot needs his own show, actually, I think. He's a popular little puppy.
He is.
He is. He is. Well, I was going to ask you, of course, before we go tonight, I'd like to know some tips about living in or even visiting, because you live in the Appalachians. You live in like the deep mountains of Appalachia. What is some advice that you would give people that are going out there? I mean, not only from like let's just say myself, I'm out there doing my Bigfoot research and stuff like that. I mean, what if I decided to buy a house up there? Okay. I mean, I'm looking to move one day. Okay. What if I decided to go up into the deep woods, the holler out there in Western North Carolina? What's the advice that you would give me for living up there?
If you're wanting Bigfoot encounters, cryptid encounters, you want to pick a spot where you've got a lot of wilderness and you want to be close to a creek, a waterway, whether it be a river or a creek or a branch, as some of the old timers still say, because that's how they travel. They travel by the creeks and the rivers. That proves to be the case kind of really across the world, but especially here in the Appalachian Mountains. I heard it when I first started talking to people here. I was told by one old timer that they only travel the creeks. You're never going to see them very far from a creek. So rule number one, if you want to have encounters, move to the wilderness and have your property near a creek.
Okay. Well, I'll definitely do that. Actually, I was going to say that when we were out at Harley's research area about a month ago, this past month, there was actually there were Bigfoots out there. 100% there were Bigfoots out there while we were there, and I left on Saturday, and that Saturday night they had some pretty major activities. We had some activity Friday night. We also had activity Saturday night, and they said that they actually, I think they had thermal footage of there were 2 Bigfoots standing in the creek down there at the holler. They came from the creek, and a lot of times they do come from the creeks. That's their little walkway right there, and but that's where the action was. They come up from the creeks.
Yep. The classic line from The Legend of Boggy Creek was when the narrator said, "It always travels the creeks."
Oh man.
I found that in my experiences and in the experiences of other people. That is very true.
Yeah, well, that's good to know. Okay, that's good to know for me because I'm a Bigfoot researcher, and I think it'd be cool to live somewhere where there are Bigfoots. I don't know if I want them peeking in my windows at night. Of course, I would take a straight pin and close my curtains like your grandma did. Okay, that's what I would do, or get some Velcro or something. But what about people who don't want a Bigfoot on their property or whatever? Like, and like I said, there are rules to live in Appalachia because there's a lot of weird stuff. I mean, my buddy Don Tart, you met Don, I think, at the Georgia Bigfoot conference. He has a video of a pale crawler in his backyard.
Oh wow.
Okay, pale crawlers. He's got Bigfoots on his property. He's got all sorts of stuff. I actually stayed that Saturday night after the Bigfoot conference. Some of us went and he let us stay at his house that night. He's got a ghost there. I actually saw a ghost walk by the door. I thought it was David. It was like there's nobody out there. There's all sorts of weird stuff going on out there. He's like right on the border of North Carolina and South Carolina. But you know, there's bound to be something that comes up on you at night or your crawls through your yard. There's even a video of this like woman who's got a house up there in Appalachians, and there's like an old hag, like a witch. It's been on all her cameras, and it's like, let me in. And she's scratching on the doors and she's scratching on the kid's window at night. I mean, it's terrifying out there. So, what kind of advice do you have, like, as far as like the rules go? Like, what else do people need to know up there?
Well, it's kind of hard, especially in the mountains, to get the backstory if you're interested in property. In other words, to find out that you're in an area where strange things happen. And I'll just tell all of you, I'll tell the whole world this: the South Mountains of Western North Carolina has all kind of strangeness, to include this very week. I went and interviewed a lady who was looking for remedies because this witch-like entity came to her home. She had it on video from her Ring camera and wanted in her house, and she refused entry to this entity, and it began to scream. This entity started screaming and squalling and carrying on. That kind of activity here. We have ghost activity. We have the weird lights. We have the cryptid phenomena. In my opinion, we have some feral people living in and around this area. So it's kind of hard to get the folks in the mountains and the foothills to open up to you if you're brand new. But if you're interested in property, talk to the neighbors. The worst they can do is go silent on you and not talk about it. If you don't want to encounter things like that, but you wind up buying property and then you discover, okay, I'm in a weird area, stay in the house at night. If the cryptids, the Bigfoot or Dogman or whatever, decide they take an interest in your property, there's nothing you can do about it. Stay in the house at night. Don't go in the woods by yourself, especially at night. Don't leave them gifts and things outside if you don't want them around. If they're comfortable with coming onto your property, then they're comfortable with you. And if you don't want to have any contact, then just pretend like they're not there. Don't stray, and you'll be fine. But don't tempt fate. If you think if you got the weird stuff going on, don't tempt fate.
Good advice. Good advice. Never tempt fate, y'all. Please don't. Don't go poking around where you don't need to go poking around, y'all. Okay.
There is a mountain here in this area that's called No Business Mountain, and it got its name because it was said you have no business on that mountain. And if you go to a place and that has a name like No Business, well, there's your sign.
It's none of your business. None of your business mountain over there. Mind your business. That is funny.
Some kind of weird something knock on the window or your door and ask to be let in. You didn't hear it. You didn't see it. If you call the law or whatever, just don't open the door. Don't go out and engage.
Don't engage. That's like the advice that we give people when it comes to like the black-eyed children or any kind of weird thing that will show up at your door, especially in the middle of the night. ring cameras are good to invest in, probably, if
Absolutely.
you're living out there. Cameras, locks, blinds, 2x4s, and nail guns. I mean, just a bat with barbed wire wrapped around it. I mean, we say, listen, the audience sees what you have to protect your home. Okay, I know you probably got more than that, but I'm just saying, like, if you got something that's that serious out there, we need to probably think twice about coming around the Appalachians. I don't know. That's creepy. It's creepy stuff. That report you took about the woman with the witch, that sounds a lot like that story where that lady actually moved out of that house because it got so bad. That one that was all over the internet, where it was some old lady that was, I don't know if she was feral or what. I mean, she was speaking English. She just looked like an old witch, like an old hag. She would just show her face occasionally in her yard. And
I'll send
tell
you
her to let her in.
I'll send you some of the still shots out of the video. I made the arrangement when she first contacted me. She didn't feel good about releasing her video, but she did. She sent it to me, and I said, can I just grab still shots out of your video? And she said, absolutely. But and I'll send those to you. But I'm going to warn you, they're very upsetting.
Really?
It's very upsetting. And there was also a report that occurred back in the late 90s. And 3 black-eyed children showed up at a lady's house on the western end of the South Mountains. Her mother had died. She was living at the time in Chapel Hill area, and she was going to her childhood home on the weekend. She would sit on the back porch in the evening and read and drink wine. And these 3 black-eyed children approached and wanted it. So if it's, whether it be some kind of witch entity or whatever, or black-eyed children, don't let them in. Because once they get in, your ball bat or your Smith & Wesson's probably not going to do you any good.
Oh my God. Holy water. Okay. Holy water, crosses, garlic. I don't know. Wow. I mean, you're talking to a girl that's always got a pew pew on her. Okay. So, and I don't let people in, and my son knows not to open the door and let people in either, ever. And, my dog wouldn't have it either. Okay. But still, do you think it would help to have a dog out there? I mean, or any kind of like animal that would alert to some of these things?
A dog is going to let you know. Like I said, we have 13. We have a Great Pyrenees, and I have a Catahoula, which is a hound that was bred to hunt pigs, even though the only thing my Catahoula hunts is a snack from the box on the counter.
I love that.
Many, many nights, they've alerted me that something was outside. The Pyrenees in particular will just lay by the back door and growl. Or he may come and guard the bedroom door, or he may even lay beside the bed, and the Catahoula just goes nuts. And many, many times they've alerted me. I would open the back door and I could smell the stench. So the dog is going to tell you, they have a sixth sense that we don't have. They're going to let you know that something is going on, and it's a wonderful idea to have a dog.
Oh yeah, I highly recommend everybody have a dog.
But I do not let my dogs go out at night unattended. I don't let my dogs run loose. If they're outside, they're tied to a runner, or I'm out there with them, because there's been too many dogs in this area that's been killed. But they're my early warning system.
Oh my gosh. Well, I'm glad you have all your dogs, and that's quite an alarm system you got there. One for every corner of the house. Well, and then some. I know, right? Multiples for every corner. Oh my gosh, they can man all the windows and everything. I guess you wouldn't call it manning, you call it dogging. But man, that's wild. That is wild. And but you don't live in fear. You're like me. We don't live in fear of all this stuff, right? And it's just a part of living out there. And your roots go back to the 1700s with your family living in that area. And so you've been raised right into it. And so I can appreciate that. I want to take a quick commercial break real quick. G-Man, thank you so much for that super sticker. I appreciate that. I love your shows. Thank you. I love you being here, and I appreciate it very much. This is actually some really good information tonight that you're giving us. I really enjoyed talking with you tonight about these things, and I really do want to see those witch pictures. We got them. I would love to see that sometime. Just whenever you get around to it.
Send them before.
Send me some stuff.
I will send you some stuff tonight.
Yeah, I would love that. It's pretty terrifying. Okay, it can be terrifying. What's up, Johnny? How you doing? I met Johnny at the Myrtle Beast Bigfoot Festival.
Hey, John.
Actually, yeah, Johnny. We missed you at the Myrtle Beast thing, by the way. I saw your NCI buddies there.
Yeah, I wasn't able to come. It killed me. That killed me to not get to go. But it was just unavoidable. I had stuff going on here, but I will be at the Burnsville Bigfoot conference, and I'll be at this. I think there's going to be a Spruce Pine Alien conference, something. Gosh, there's several of them coming up, and I aim to be at every one of them.
That's awesome. I have to come up and see you guys again too, and I'm sure we're going to cross paths again. I'm sure of it. And man, maybe Harley will take all of us out to that spot again sometime, and I can come up there and hang out with y'all. That was a really interesting place over there in East Tennessee where he took us. It was over in I can disclose it because Harley disclosed it last week on the show. So it was in Cott County. Okay. And that is over there where I don't ever give the locations away, by the way, on my show. Okay. But Harley we did talk about it last week. And that is actually the same county where there were a couple of people who were mauled to death by a pack of wild dogs on 2 different occasions on the same road. Okay. And that's always been highly suspicious, that maybe it wasn't a pack of wild dogs. You know what I mean? Yep. And so that's why I've been wanting to get over there and do some research for a long time. And when the opportunity came that Harley was inviting us up there, I jumped on it. I was there, you know. Because there's something fishy going on in those woods over there. Real fishy.
And I invited Harley to come here to the South Mountains area, and you know, you're more than welcome to come here to investigate anytime you want to. And I hope Harley will take me up on that sooner than later. But I'll always arrange to be able to, you know, if you guys want to stay local here closer to my place, or you want to go deeper into the South Mountains.
Well, heck yeah.
We'll get Todd. We'll get Big Todd to go with us.
Todd, I see Todd has been such a trooper. Thank you for being here tonight, Todd. I know you're buddies with Jerry, so thank you for being here. You've had a few buddies in the chat tonight, so that's really cool. I appreciate y'all being here. And yeah, we'll get. I just love going out there. I just love getting out in the woods, and I love Cherokee legends and the fact that you got things beating on your house and things like that. That's pretty cool. But also we do note that there is a danger to all this as well. And I have really enjoyed having you here tonight, Jerry, for sure.
I enjoyed it a lot.
Well, thank you. I hope you'll come back and visit us again. Okay,
anytime.
visit us soon.
Word.
Okay, cool. Well, you got a book you're coming out with too, right? Tell me about your book. Tell me about your YouTube channel. Tell me about your anything you got. Your channel 12. Tell the audience about all of it tonight.
The book was actually the first thing that I started, and it was a collection of all of the eyewitness accounts that I've collected, as well as I wasn't going to do it at first, but now I'm at that place where I don't care. I'm going to include personal experiences. And I probably got enough for 2 books. And then my TikTok show, which was my first big venture, was the strange and unexplained phenomena of the South Mountains of North Carolina. I'm going to keep it going. I still have plenty of content to just talk about the South Mountains area. And then over on YouTube, it's Rebels Dark Tales of Appalachia, which is actually all the stories that I've got on TikTok. But I wanted to leave room because once I gained a certain number of followers, I started getting stories from all over the Appalachian Mountains, actually all over the country, all over the world. And I lost my train of thought in the middle of that, but that's a sign of getting old.
Oh, it happens to me. It's called a senior moment. I get those all the time. I get them on my show pretty often.
I aim to branch out, and I'm gonna have a show just dedicated to Appalachian Mountains. I want to do a series on the mystery of the Dyatlov Pass, and I also want to join forces with some folks and do some ghost stories. And we're going to launch a series. My friend Cindy and Robert, we're going to launch a series called Cryptid Rebels, and we're going to talk about cryptids from all over the earth.
Oh, I love that.
I think we're going to drop an episode on July the 11th of Cryptid Rebels. But I drop a new episode every Sunday or Monday night, depending on which of my personalities is in charge at the time.
I don't mean to laugh.
Yeah, posting on TikTok. I also post the episodes on YouTube. And then Channel 12 TV network, the NCI show. Channel 12 is a streaming service. You can get it on Roku, Chromecast, and a number of others. But we do 2 shows a week, the NCI show. And if you've never been a guest on the NCI show, Jessica, we need to get you on there.
I would love to come be a part of that. Here, I made a banner for it. Channel 12 network, y'all. And NCI. I was going to say CSI. Crime Scene Investigators over here. North Carolina Investigates, NCI, y'all. NCI over on Channel 12. I have not been on there yet, but I have been invited. I would love to come be a part of that sometime. And I think it's great. You guys are, like I said, y'all are a hoot, man. I love seeing you guys all out at the conferences, and it's just fun. Y'all are a fun bunch to hang out with. And
Greg Ogle's now a member of NCI.
Oh, is he?
Yes.
Amazing. Yeah, he comes out with my team that goes out to the meadow, and Seekers and ASOG actually. So that's awesome. Yeah, I gave him a shout out earlier. We were talking about, I think his new film's coming out. It's called Vanished, if I'm not mistaken. And I've got a little tiny cameo in that little film he did. So, talking about the little boy we talked about, Dennis, what was his last name? I can't remember now.
Martin.
Dennis Martin. Yep. And so that's really cool. Very cool. And and channel, so NCI consists of George Lunsford and Robert Effler, Tim Dills, yourself.
Yeah.
And who else? And Harley Owens, right?
Harley, Randy, Greg, Brian Boom Boom Sawyer.
Okay, more people than I knew.
Dave Bruce is a member of NCI. Tracy Lynn Jones. I think she's up in Pennsylvania, if I'm not mistaken. No, she's in Maryland. Dave Bruce we've got it spread out: Michigan, Maryland, Pennsylvania, Tennessee, North Carolina, and of course Robert and George were the founders of NCI.
Amazing. You guys can catch them at all these different events we got going on all over, all these Bigfoot events. There's so many Bigfoot events now. When I first got into Bigfooting, there weren't a whole lot of Bigfoot conferences and stuff back then. And if there was one, I was usually there if it was in Georgia. But now we got tons of them. And so it's good to see you guys out there. It's always fun hanging out with fellow Bigfooters, Jerry.
And I've got to give a shout out to Dwight and Bob and Chris. They're the movers and shakers right now in what was formerly known as Dirty South Squatching. They changed it to Sasquatch Recon, and they're dropping a YouTube show, and they're going to be releasing over time about 15 years worth of evidence.
Okay.
I can't wait.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Carter says you need to blink. Rebel blink if you're reading chat. Are you reading the chat? Blink. Oh my gosh. That's so funny. You do have some friends in here. That's really fun. Okay. So you said Sasquatch Recon or Squatch Recon?
Sasquatch Recon on YouTube.
I like that name. That's cool. Tim gave me, when I first met you guys, I didn't meet you at the time, but they were at the Georgia Bigfoot Conference last year. Okay. And I met Tim gave me a sticker that said Dirty South Squatching on it. And I thought that was really cool. And it had a Bigfoot on it. So that's how I'll always remember Tim, is he's the Dirty South Squatching guy, because he gave me that sticker. Can't forget that.
Those guys let me in, and that was kind of my first foot in the door before I got with NCI, and I'm still a member of both groups. But those guys, the three that's running things right now in Sasquatch Recon, they're going to blow some minds with the evidence.
I love it. Amazing. Amazing. Awesome. Well, Jerry, thank you so much again for being here. And it is really great. We had a wonderful chat going on tonight. We do have, like I always say, it's the best chat on the internet going on. We had a few new faces in here today. And Cindy said, Tim Stud Muffin Deals. Thank you, Cindy. Thank you, Cindy.
Yes, he is.
Yeah, and I hope that he's healing up after I think he had surgery on his arm or something. I hope he's doing better. And shout out to all those guys, all the NCI team. And I hope all of y'all will come back and all those guys will come on the show too. Everybody's got such great encounters to talk about for sure. And man, I got to cover feral people tonight. I am so excited. This has been a wonderful show, Jerry. And you guys, I want to thank everybody for being here tonight. The whole chat, y'all were blowing up tonight, man. I couldn't even keep up with the chat at all because there were so many people here. I want to thank everybody who gave super stickers tonight and for just showing all the love and the support. Y'all mean the world to me. And this is always the highlight of my Saturday. Okay. And every day that we're here live on air, please go over to Rebels Dark Tales of Appalachia on YouTube. You guys go find him on TikTok. Do yourselves a favor and go follow Jerry on TikTok, y'all. Okay. And please give Scoot, is it Scoot, right? Give Scoot a hug for me, please. He's the cutest little thing.
I will give him a hug when I check on him tonight. And that was Scoot's, my buddy Scoot's wife, who told me to blink. I just got a message that popped up.
Blink if you're okay. Blink once if you're reading the chat. That's so funny. Oh my gosh. Well, that's great. Well, yes, I'm super happy that Scoot is okay. Scoot, your dog, is alive and well and okay. And now he's like the mascot now of Rebels Dark Tales of Appalachia. Okay, so yeah. All right. Well, any final words tonight before we say goodbye? Any final words?
Appreciate everybody that supports you, that supports me, that supports this community. That's what makes everything possible. And I love interacting with everybody who's interested. Even if you've never gotten out in the woods one time in your life, you live in the middle of the Sahara Desert. If you're interested in it and you converse with us, I want you to know I appreciate you. I appreciate all of it.
Absolutely. And we appreciate you too, for sure. We appreciate you so much. So you guys, please go over and subscribe on YouTube at Rebels Dark Tales of Appalachia. And you guys, please subscribe over here on my channel too, as well, if you're not already subscribed. And definitely like the video and share this out. It definitely helps with the algorithm. And I really appreciate you guys so much. All right. Well, y'all come back and see me on Monday. I'll be back here at 1 p.m. Eastern on Monday with another live show for you guys. We keep the shows going. I tell you what, we really do. Oh, and also don't forget to go to Channel 12 Network as well and look for NCI, North Carolina Investigates, with that whole crowd. It's awesome. All right, y'all. Well, everybody, I hope you enjoyed the show tonight. I hope you all learned a little something. I know I did. And please stay safe out there. Do not live in fear, y'all. I know Jerry and I are out here chasing monsters in the woods, and he's living in the heart of Appalachia. But we ain't scared. Okay. And you guys shouldn't be either. Yeah, you shouldn't be either. Okay. Well, y'all have a great night. Close your blinds, lock your doors, get your bat, put it by the bed just in case, but don't live in fear, y'all. Okay. And I'll see you guys on Monday. Everybody have a wonderful night, and we'll see you next time. All right. See you, Jerry. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Okay. All right. Bye, y'all.